Dr. Tharoor, thank you for covering the questions in such a deep way. I am a student of Moscow State Institute of International Relations, and it seems that today we are covering mostly India-West relations, but I'd like to slightly change the direction and ask you, what's your take on the relation of the two rising powers in Asia, such as China and India? Do you think that their confrontation is going to change landscape of international arena in the foreseeable future?
I certainly hope not, but the fact is that there has been a decline in the quality of the relationship in recent years. India and China have been two giant Asian civilizations for a very long time and have had, in the ancient history, very close and friendly relations. In fact, Buddhism went to China from India. Chinese scholars used to come and study in Indian universities going back 2,000 years. There are records of all of this. But in recent times, there has been disagreements, first of all, over territory. The Chinese have still not settled the long border with India, which is the world's longest unresolved frontier dispute. On top of that, we have a strategic problem in our neighborhood, which is that China is a very strong backer of Pakistan. And you must understand that as far as China is concerned, they have a big stake in Pakistan. The single biggest project under their Belt and Road Initiative is the project called the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which runs through Pakistan, indeed partially through territory that Pakistan took illegally from India in 47-48. The territorial dispute resulted in a very unprovoked and unnecessary confrontation in 2020, in which 20 Indian soldiers were killed and a smaller but unknown number of Chinese. I think it was most unfortunate, but as a result of that, there was a deep freeze in the relationship. There was no normal friendship between India and China for some years. A thaw began late last year in September of 2024, September, October. At that time, there was the beginning of normalization. Slowly, carefully, the two countries were talking to each other, some cooperation was coming. And then we ended up with this recent conflict with Pakistan, where once again China took a certain view that we were not terribly happy with in Delhi. But nonetheless, we've got elements there that could work for a modus vivendi. I think the first thing to do would be if the Chinese would also make a real effort to settle the border. Their current position is, let's leave it for later generations. But as long as it remains an unsolved issue, it becomes a continuing irritant between our two countries. So all of these reasons, I think, would require a serious effort for peace, and we have not yet seen much serious effort coming from that side.
Mr. Tharoor, thank you. Considering your experience at the United Nations, what do you think are the possible solution to the Iran-Israel conflict? And one more, how do you think peace can be achieved in the Middle East?
Oh boy. Well, on Iran-Israel, it looks like we suddenly have a solution, which is quite remarkable given the way it came about, because you had the US bombing Iran, you had a retaliation by Iran against the US airbase, and the next day you had an announcement of peace. So it was quite an extraordinary event in recent world history. But having said that, the issue at stake appears to be the question of nuclear development. And I think there India has consistently had a view that the best solution to this kind of nuclear problem is universal nuclear disarmament. Now, I know that Russia won't like that, and America won't like that, and the Brits and the French, they all want to hold on to their nukes. But this is the problem. As long as some have nuclear weapons, others will always want to try and have them on the grounds that that's what will protect them. And the motivation to have them will increase. Whereas if these weapons were universally outlawed, and everyone gave them up, as India proposed at the United Nations way back in the 1980s. And so that kind of solution is what we have to struggle for.
One last question. Dr. Tharoor, do you want to pick and choose?
Well, let's go for a lady in that case. Is there one right here, front row?
The lady in pink it is.
Hello. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Daria. I'm student of Moscow State Institute of International Relations, Master's Program, International Security. And my question is about future. And you have already mentioned some of India's achievements in space exploration, and we admire and respect them. I read a lot of articles about them. But unfortunately, there is another aspect that has to do with arms control and arms race that is about to start and to take place in space sphere. And my question is on India's view, on your perspective, how can we prevent it? How can we deal with militarization? And how can we prevent weaponization of space? Thank you very much.
Very good question, to which I wish I had more authority to answer. I'm not an expert on this, but you're 100% right. Space is a common legacy for all of humankind. It should not be something that gets militarized, where one strong power tries to use space or parts of space against someone else and so on. I think there has been some discussion in the United Nations context about treaties on outer space. And I think that very clearly, in principle, everyone agrees that one should not be militarizing outer space. But you're totally right that controlling arms in space is going to be perhaps the next big challenge we'll have to worry about. I just hope we never start that space arms race, because once it starts, it gets much more difficult to control. If no one does anything, then we should try and create an agreement before anyone starts this dangerous process. Thank you for raising that question.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and it was really a pleasure. I apologize to all those whose hands were still up, but I still have one more engagement to get to in Moscow, and I have an early morning departure tomorrow. So we will have to end this, but thank you so much for your presence, your attention, your questions, and your interest. I appreciate it very much. All the best. Thank you.